Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another video of GenAI Vlog. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to take any CSV spreadsheet and upload that to Hugging Face Hub so that you can build your chatbot, you can build your agent, you can build whatever large language model based content. So first things first, I'm assuming you have some sort of data frame. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to create a simple data frame. So Panda data frame, there are two columns. The first one is question, the second one is answers. And then they are in the pairs, right? So what is your name? My name is Tom. What is your age? I'm 22 years old. Things like that. So once you have this data frame created, let's run that. And then let's save it locally to this CSV called toy data. So that's what you see on the left-hand side. We can open that. Boom, there you go. There's your data frame. Now, this can, of course, be anything you want, anything that you collected for your team, for your project, for your company, so on and so forth. After that, we have our toy data. Let's read that back. And I'm creating two things. One is called raw content questions. The other one is called raw content answers. Now, this is not much of a difference other than just taking the original column and turning it into a list. For example, I can run questions in front of you, and then you see that, hey, now this is in a list format. Specifically, it's a list of strings. Now, with that being said, we can use data sets to create this dataset dictionary object, and that gives us a library to do that. And specifically, this dataset dict does that for us. So we use dataset from dict to get the data in the dictionary format, and then we use dataset dict to create that format. Here, I only have a small sample, so I'm just going to pretend this is a training data. For future reference, you can, of course, do validation set, test set, whatever you want. Also, with that being said, we can print that out, and this will convert us the dataset dict object for us. As you can see, there are only 3 rows, and it's just question and answer. Now, with that being said, you have your toy data. Next thing to do is to push the data to the Hugging Face hub. So I use Google Secret to manage the secret for me. In real world, you can do whatever you want. You can simply copy paste in here if you want to. You got to give a repo name, and you got to make sure the username is your account. And this repo name has to be unique. So I'm going to say sample toy data v1, and this line of code will create this repo for me. And then I can click on this URL. As you can see, there's nothing here. It's just an empty repo. Now I'm going to push some data in there. So I want to verify the name to make sure that the username as well as the directory of the repo name is correct. Once I make sure that this is correct, I can go ahead and run this line of code, and this will physically push the dataset dictionary that I created above onto this directory on the cloud. And it gives you this nice URL link. Click on that. It's the same link as before, but right now you actually have dataset here. Let's refresh it. Here's your dataset. What is your name? My name is Tom. What is your age? I'm 22 years old. Things like that. So now you have a basic question and answer pair, and then these things are now on the Hugging Face Hub cloud. Great. So you're never going to lose your data. Now the next step is how do you retrieve it? So you go to your notebook, starting from here, install ChromaDB database. That is the library to manage the database for me. And then I run the required libraries. Now I can use this chunk of code to load the data and create this collection for me. So first things first, you want to load the data using the correct directory. So this directory is sample toy data v1. I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to physically paste it here. It says equals 0504 sample toy data v1. This directory, of course, has to be correct and has to match the desired directory under your account name. After that's done, you can create a ChromaDB database. This client does that for us. You can create a collection. And then here we have this .add method to add the IDs, the documents, as well as the metadata for us. And then for transparency purpose, here I added questions. You can, of course, add answers or whatever other contents that you want to add. So now I can answer a question. For example, I say, what's your name? And I run the query function. It will give me the index of 0 to 1. Now, what does that mean? That means we can put the answer in a table, and the table says, hey, 0, that is the first index that's being retrieved. And the question is, what is your name? And the answer is, my name is Tom. And this distance here says 0, and the distance here is 0 because the question I asked happens to be exactly same as these few words in this particular sample. And the index of that sample is 0. So this gives you transparency and will minimize your hallucination, because if I had a typo, I know exactly how that's going to change the distance. For example, what if I come from a French background and I say, what is your nom? But instead of name, meaning that I'm missing this one word. So I can run the same lines of code. As you can see, the first sample still pop out because what is your happen to be similar, right? And then it also took the name as a similar content to nom, then gender is. So that's why you see the distance for the first sample with index 0 is 1.09, whereas the distance for the second sample with index 2 is 1.12. That happened to be higher than 1.09 because name is a similar word to nom than gender is. So hopefully this gives you full transparency of what does it mean when we do a query search and what does it mean when we talk about distance. And you want the distance to be small because distance measures the angles between the two vectors that are numerical form of the question in the database and the question that the user asked. And then you can use the index to retrieve the answer, and then you can build a large language model around that. And that will lead to the retrieval-based algorithm, or also known as retrieval augmented generation. With that being said, hopefully you like this episode. Hopefully it sheds some light of how to push data to the cloud and how to make a query based on Similarity. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like.